Information-fueled.
Opinion-driven.
This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
7:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Welcome on in to your Monday, May 19th of 2025. Want to get right to the Newsmaker Hotline. Congressman Tim Burchett is joining us. Congressman, always great to have you on. Of course, you know the news of the day about Joe Biden. He's been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer that is now spread to his bones. I know that it's a delicate subject because, you know, I'm just going to be honest. I've been very critical of Joe Biden and his policies. That, of course, will continue for me, because I believe that there is a big old cover-up here. But let me get your reaction. What is the temperature of Washington, D.C. on this Monday morning?
Well, it's a little, I'd say just a little ticked off. We're trying to get the big, beautiful bill passed, of course. And you've got the folks, the northern folks who have this SALT tax. You hear, and what that stands for, nobody can ever tell you what anything is. They got to give you initials so they're cute. I guess we pay think tanks to do that. It's for state and local taxes. And in New York and California, New Jersey, these blue states controlled by Democrats, it's just 100% a fact. They have terrible taxes, and you know they have LGBTQ museums and things like that, and that's what their tax dollars are going for. So what they want is people like from Tennessee and Florida, where they have no state income tax, will supplant their ongoing habit of wasting money. And instead of fixing their problem, they're coming to Congress saying, oh, we want to take off all of our taxes, our state and local taxes, write them off of our income tax. And it does not encourage them to fix the problem. As a matter of fact, it encourages the blue states to do even more egregious things and go further and further in the hole, and the rest of us are supposed to pay for that. But that's a very small portion of this. The other portion is the Medicaid. There's a lot of us that think able-bodied Americans should have to work if they're able to. Now, if you've got a single mom with a couple of kids or something, you know, there's exceptions, or somebody that's handicapped or whatever. I'm not politically correct, disabled, I guess I should say. And they can't work. But you know what? I know a kid who's autistic who takes care of his nana, puts himself through school, and he doesn't even want a dadgum handout. And you got these able-bodied people that are gaming the system. It just ticks me off. And, and we can't come to an agreement on that because it's an election year or elections coming up. And it's election every 2 years anyway. Yeah. Let's make the tough decisions. Let's cut. Last year, I believe we took in around $5 trillion, and I think we spent over $10 trillion. We cannot continue down this path. This is destruction. We are rapidly approaching bankruptcy. We're insolvent right now. Insolvent's when you can borrow money to cover your bills. Bankruptcy is when you can't borrow anymore. You borrowed it out, you're flat broke, you're busted. Nobody will loan you the money because you're a terrible risk. We're rapidly approaching that. Well, this is the chance in this big, beautiful bill.
Well, Congressman, let me play you some audio. This is Chip Roy and Ralph Norman, two guys I know that you know.
Well, all I'm telling you is there's a growing number of us who we don't like smoke and mirrors. We want real cuts. That's what we agreed to.
We are writing checks we cannot cash, and our children are going to pay the price. Something needs to change, or you're not going to get my support.
Well, House Speaker Mike Johnson last night said that he believes that everything is going to be fine in the House. You're going to have the votes. The legislation for the One Big Beautiful Bill did pass a big hurdle last night, I guess 10, 11, 12 o'clock midnight, where it did pass through the House Budget Committee. So I guess at least that's progress.
Yeah, it is progress, but I mean, it's progress on a bad bill. And here we are, we've got the chance. You know, the MAGA movement is strong. The MAGA movement needs to get in with us on the fiscal restraint, because without fiscal restraint, the left will continue to flourish. The tax breaks for the windmills and the solar panels and all that stuff, all that does is push further and further down the United States' energy independence, because where do we buy all the material for that? from China, of course. We can pump our own fuel, our own oil. We can develop our own nuclear, these small nuclear reactors. If we could just get off our butts and get those every year, they say it's 8 more years. 8 years ago, they're saying it's 8 more years we're going to have these small nuclear reactors. If we could have those small nuclear reactors online, we could literally put the Middle East out of business. We would quit. They'd have to find the war pimps at the Pentagon would have to find another reason to go to war than oil. So there's a lot of things that we could be doing that we're not doing. It's the same old Washington game. The K Street lobbyists are pulling the strings. And unfortunately, some of the people that are closest to President Trump are not telling him everything that's in this big, beautiful bill and the promises that we made that we're not keeping. So we've got a real problem. I hope we can address it. I hope we can fix this problem. If we don't, it's on us. History will not look kindly on us because we had a chance to do something and we didn't. And we're not asking for a lot. We just need to move in that direction.
So a couple of things. Number one is you're part of the Doge Committee. And so let me ask this. You've got Elon Musk and Doge, and they found all of this, waste, fraud, and abuse just within the government, generally speaking, from USAID and so forth. Are those cuts or those, revelations, are those going to be indicated in this particular budget? Because originally it was, we're going to cut $1 trillion. No. Now we're down to like $150 billion.
No. And the problem is, and I said a press release last week, we're not filing any bills. We sent 5 bills to the president since we've been in. And I'm a limited government kind of guy, so that's a good thing. I don't want to send a bunch of bills. But what I learned in the legislature sometimes to take a bad bill out, a bad piece of legislation or a bad law out, sometimes you gotta pass 3 different laws because of the complexity of it and how it affects other things. That's kind of confusing, but that's why I put the press release last week. I said I'm going to start putting all the president's executive orders on bills, and I think I'm filing like 50 of them. I'm going to legal services this week with it, and it's nationally I've got national news because of it, because nobody's doing that. We've got to codify these bills. We've got to put them into law. We've got to take them out of the hands of the courts. We've got to quit playing around with this thing. And, everybody's mad at us right now, and they should be. They really should be. But you've got a situation in Washington where there's folks that are trying to ambush the speaker, and it's just that old game. Everybody wants to be. I must be the only guy in Washington, D.C. who does not want to be speaker, because everybody, as soon as you get to Washington, everybody's figuring out some channel through the 435 how they can get in the speaker's office. I don't want it. I don't want to pass up this opportunity. The biggest fear I've always had in politics is missed opportunity. And if we do not grasp this moment right now, we will miss this opportunity, because Congress, I always say this, but dadgum, it's the truth. Congress is one flu season away, the Republicans are, from being out of the majority. And that's the dadgum truth. President Trump won with an overwhelming majority. We did not. And the reason we didn't, because we elected a bunch of gutless people. And not all of them, but there's some in some key spots that just do not care for this, that do not care. They don't care. All they want to do is get reelected.
Well, Congressman, let me ask. It's all right. Let me ask you this. Donald Trump has signed, from what I can tell, 394 executive orders. I don't know if that's what you've got as far as you're counting, but my question is going to be, I've got to check the roads real quick, but my question is going to be when I come back, how do you physically do that? Are you going to file legislation to codify each one individually? Do you do them in groups? And what's the chance that these are going to pass? Because this has been a big issue with me, is that Congress has not been acting to codify these things, especially when it comes to things that are the most important to conservatives. So we're going to talk about that straight ahead. Hold on with me, Congressman. I got 15 seconds. I got to check the traffic on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 15 on your Monday. As far as today, a high of 81, scattered thunderstorms on Tuesday, strong storms as well. 3 out of 5 on the severity scale. Appreciate you listening to WTN. Congressman Tim Burchett joining us. So I don't know if that's the number you have, 394 executive orders. I grokked it. That's what they say. But are you going to do each and every executive order one by one? Do you do them in groups? Or are you just going to do some, not all? What are your plans?
I'm going to do the ones that are attacking the fiscal problem and some things that I have knowledge of. So in the first bunch, we're doing about 50, and we'll start there. And what I'm doing really with this is just putting everybody on notice. Jim Jordan made a wonderful statement that was just after he got. We have what's called 1 minute. So when we're in our caucus meeting, we call it conference. I don't know. It's the caucus meeting, and everybody can get up and speak at the mic for 1 minute. And he said, "Why didn't we have the NPR defunding right after the Doge committee had finished that? That next week would have been perfect. We had all that momentum. Again, we didn't do it." And I told him I was doing this, and he said, "Bring that bill by my office. I want to be a co-signer." But the point is, the people that are supposed to be doing our strategery, so to speak, are not being very strategic, and they're waiting around. They're listening to the lobbyists, and they're afraid to do anything, like USAID cuts. You know good and well, Elon Musk told me this in a meeting. There's just half a dozen of us in there, and I'll take a lie detector test. He said, "Tim, the money's coming right back to Washington, right in politicians' pockets." So what does that tell you? Both parties are in on this game, both parties, and we've got to just call them out. I don't care. I'm sick of it. We're going to lose our dadgum country. We're not going to lose the majority. We're going to lose our country. We will be a third world country because of the economic situation we are putting ourselves in, because we don't have the guts to tell a few people no that are at the trough. And they're ripping us off, and you ought to be mad. We ought to be passing every one of these executive orders. As soon as they come out, they ought to be assigned to the committee. Now, here's the problem. I've got to go through legal services. Nashville, Tennessee is a wonderful situation when I was in the legislature, and it still is. The people in legal services are just hard-working attorneys. You come down there, and at the end, sometimes you could get it within a day, but you would always get it back within a week. They will delay you months on this stuff. And so I'm making the bills very simple. I'm just saying, defund this, defund that, defund whatever group. Mm-hmm. And then it's a very simple bill. It'll be assigned to a committee, and I'll keep you alert. I'll be putting out press releases, the delays and everything that are going on. But I want America to understand just what a mess this thing is. And we've got an opportunity, but I don't think we'll get another bite at the apple like this, because the MAGA movement needs to understand we can do all those things that we're talking about, but we've got to cut our spending. We've got to cut the budget, and we got to get our deficit under control.
A couple more questions for you, Congressman Tim Burchett, joining us. Number one, and I really want to get into this a little bit, Medicaid. So we keep being accused of congressmen, as you well know, of wanting to gut Medicaid. This is what the Democrats are saying. They scream about this all the time. What exactly is going to be cut from Medicaid? Is it the work requirements, and that is going to force people off Medicaid? Are we actually just cutting overhead, waste, fraud, and abuse? What is going on with Medicaid?
We are not addressing the real problem there, and it's the work requirement, and all we're cutting is waste, abuse, and fraud. And that's what's funding this thing. The Democrats want illegals in their districts because the census pays for them. They want them in this country because the census will count them, and then they'll get these benefits. And they'll continue to have Democrat-controlled districts. We have 4 to 6 districts in California, congressional districts, that would be Republican right now if we did not count the illegals. So what you've got is just a complete collaboration, I think, with the left on this thing, and the media, because they're not naming the specifics. Who would be against cutting waste, abuse, and fraud? But the people that are committing the waste, abuse, and fraud. And that's exactly what we're trying to cut. They never give you they'll give you one, this poor little old lady out here that's fallen through the cracks that fits some crazy statistic that doesn't work out. But the reality is that's all we're trying to do. We want to kick the illegals off. If you're able to work, dadgummit, you ought to work. You ought to at least apply for some sort of job training. And don't give me that garbage about all these people that are being cut off, because the ones that are cut off are they can find work. They're either illegal. If not, if they're in my district, I haven't heard from them, because this system is broken. We've added unbelievably amount of, I forget the number now, but it's a high percentage in just the last couple of years. And yet I drive down Kingston Pike or Broadway, and what do I see? Signs, need employees, hiring now, everywhere.
Yep.
And what are these people doing? Why would they do that when they can go get a check? It just doesn't, it's wrong. We've got to fix this system. It's going to be tough on some people, and they're going to holler. But the reality is they need to get their butts off their couches and get back to work.
Let's talk about raising the debt limit real quick, all that entails. On the one hand, Speaker Mike Johnson says we need to save money, but talking about raising the debt limit, will more money be spent raising the debt limit, or are we saving trillions of dollars like other people say? It's confusing for folks. We're saving money, but we're going to raise the debt limit. Other people, the Democrats, will say, well, no, you're going to spend trillions more in dollars. I mean, what's going to happen if we do raise the debt limit like Donald Trump wants?
Well, first of all, the Democrats have never been against raising the debt limit till a Republican's in office. Yes. And the reality is we've slowed the debt down, the amount of debt down, but it's still increasing. So, I mean, that's Washington talk. That throws you off. And I don't know why we even put a debt limit in, because we always, every year since I've been here, we've increased it, or every time they voted for it. I can't remember if they'll put it on whatever, a 2-year deal, but all we're doing is just increasing spending, and we're going to increase the debt limit. And in this bill, it allows us to increase it. And they say they have to do that to get control of it. No, to get control of it, you got to quit spending. That's the bottom line. And we just can't quit. If we just go back under pre-COVID spending levels,
yep,
pre-COVID, we could start fixing this thing. Name me one program that's been added since COVID that you can't live without. You can't. Nobody can. But we're addicted to these dollars, and the bill's going to come soon, folks. I'm not some tinfoil hat guy out here. It is the reality. When you're taking in 5 and spending 10, it doesn't work. And that's exactly what Congress is doing.
Congressman, I've got 1 minute left. You'd mentioned that you didn't believe that people were telling Donald Trump what was really in this bill. Can we talk a little bit about that? I mean, are you saying Speaker Mike Johnson isn't telling him, or is it the advisors in the White House?
No, I think it's people in the White House, and it's just so big. He was off on that tour, and it's like they used to get on Biden, he'd go to the beach. Well, the phone's right there beside him. I mean, it's not like you're not being president. But the reality is that's his style of leadership. He is not a micromanager. He's a big picture guy. That's why he's saying one big, beautiful bill. And I wish we'd have broke it up into several bills. We could have fixed this problem. But they always get these slogans in their heads, and our leadership does the same, and they want some acronym, and I just think the people around him aren't telling him the truth. I've talked to people that have talked to him here recently about the solar panel tax credits and things, and they tried to run it out over the course of like 5 or 10 years. And anytime they balance a budget in 10 years or whatever, that's a joke, because the other party will be back in charge between now and then, probably. The Democrats do it, we do it. And they all pat themselves on the back and head to Stockholm for their Nobel Peace Prize. But the reality is, unless you do it on the front end and say within this presidential term, that's why everything needs to have a 3-year window at the max. It has to sunset, because if you don't, then the next president picks it up, and the next Congress picks it up, and then they change it. And that's why we just keep going down this road. We're going to balance the budget in 15 years. I remember one of them did that, or 10 years, and I was like, I look back on that, and that's just a joke. And that's exactly what we're doing.
All right, Congressman Tim Burchett, always great to have you on. Keep us updated on the executive orders and trying to at least get a vote on those, because I think that's important to be able to know really, truly, if leadership is willing to solve these problems and get these executive orders codified, as if you basically call their bluff. And I appreciate you calling in to Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Always great talking to Congressman Tim Burchett. Joan.
Yes.
I've noticed something about the congressman. I've been interviewing him for, I think, about 11 years now.
Yes.
Is that you can always tell how bad things are by the number of dadgummit that he says. So
it's the dadgummit factor.
It's the dadgummit scale.
Yeah.
So this interview and Times right now on this Monday, May 19th, it is a 7 on the dadgummit scale because that's how many dadgummits he threw down is 7.
So he's dadgummit mad.
He is dadgummit mad. He sure is.
Yeah.
And and we love Tim Burchett. I mean, I get frustrated with our members of Congress like everybody else. I think the one guy that gets madder than me is actually Tim Burchett. So there you go. 7:26. I know we're running late. But it was worth it.
We're late.
The dadgummit scale. We're going to start that here on WTN. All right, let's see. Joan, what's coming up?
Well, we'll take a look at what it means when doctors say that prostate cancer is hormone sensitive. Also, the search resumes this morning for a missing 12-year-old boy. We've got those stories and more coming up here at 7:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.